Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar called From Drain to Divine, an energetic reset for midlife women. This is going to be approximately a 45-minute evening session to reclaim your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. Today is Monday, March 16th, and I welcome you all here. My name is Ayanna McCalmont. I'm a registered massage therapist in the Greater Toronto area. I've been in practice for a little bit, almost 30 years now, and in that time, I've worked with many people. I've done probably about 22 to 23,000 treatments in that time. And I've noticed a lot of different trends and different behaviors from women and people at large over those years. And in my work as a massage therapist, I've decided to go into semi retirement in the next couple of years as I embark on different areas like coaching and wellness retreats. So, once again, welcome to this webinar.
This session is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical, nutritional, or psychological advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Any tools or practices offered here are for integration and self-reflection. Please use your own discernment, keep what genuinely supports you, and leave what doesn't resonate. If you're experiencing mental health concerns, significant emotional distress, or medical issues, please seek support from an appropriate licensed healthcare or medical health professional.
This webinar is geared towards high-functioning women in their 40s to 60s who feel wired, they feel tired or flat. They feel disconnected from their body, less tolerant of misalignment, and thinking the way that they are living is not tolerable and it's no longer sustainable. These are also for women who have mastered achievement but are now ready to master alignment. Most of us try to fix our energy on a physical level, and this is very important because we do need to address the physical, but we have to look at the whole system. And what that whole system involves is the physical energy, as I mentioned. Do you have enough fuel for cellular charge? Your mental energy, where's my attention going, and what stories am I feeding? The emotional energy, what am I carrying or suppressing? And in here, I would also include what kind of relationships. These can be professional, personal relationships, which might be draining or zapping your energy, either subconsciously or on purpose from other people. Do you feel connected to something bigger than yourself or to your to-do list? And this is on the spiritual plane. So let's start with physical energy. And here I'd like to talk about mitochondria, light, and nature. And when I talk about light and nature, I'm going to get into more of the circadian rhythms and how, when they are dysregulated, it can affect our energy levels. So, first to start, if you don't know what mitochondria are, there are little power plants in each and every cell in our body. They need oxygen, light, and rest to thrive. They are also involved in innate immunity and inflammation. So, these mitochondria help cells decide whether to devote the energy to peacetime metabolism, which is just everyday metabolism when all is well. Whether we're digesting, we're breathing, our heart's beating, we're doing everyday type of movements. The mitochondria are involved in that type of peacetime metabolism, or do they need to be shifted towards cellular defense? Are we, do we have disease processes? Do we have any viruses? Are we stressed? Are we in survival mode? So depending on what kind of state we're in, the mitochondria will divert that energy to that particular state. So imagine being in survival mode, being stressed all the time, being tired all the time, and seeing where our energy is actually going. And this is why we feel drained and tired a lot of the time. So, with the mitochondria, you will find that certain areas in the body, like the brain, the nerve cells, the skeletal muscle, which is the muscle that allows us to move, they demand a lot of energy. So, each cell will have a lot of mitochondrial cells. So, for example, the nerve cells, and these are estimates, by the way. So, the nerve cells might have anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand per cell. Skeletal muscle may have about 1,200 mitochondria per cell, and the liver cells, which they do a lot of work in the body, excuse me, about 2,500 mitochondria per cell. So think about how many cells are in each organ and the amount of mitochondria per cell and the amount of energy. By the way, this energy is called ATP. Think about all the energy that needs to be generated just to have our body function. So if you think about it, our bodies are quite the miracle, the way that they keep, functioning for us, the way that they keep serving us, despite whether we keep it in good condition or we are keeping it in rough shape. So we have to remember to thank our bodies for all the work that it does for us. So again, let's go and look at what kind of things cause mitochondrial dysfunction. And when I say mitochondrial dysfunction, think of that as feeling, less physical energy or more fatigue. So this can come from oxidative damage and chronic inflammation. It can come from dysregulated circadian rhythms, which is, poor light and dark exposure or not properly coordinated dark and light exposure. There could be genetic mutations. There can be environmental toxins and chemicals. Nutritional factors could be involved. As we get older, our mitochondrial numbers decrease and they may not be as good quality, so they're not putting out as much energy as we might need. Also, chronic physical and psychological stress and low physical and physiological resilience. Here, we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit further in the presentation. So let's look at circadian rhythms. As I said, our bodies are a miracle and we are connected very intimately with nature and in particular to the sun. The light cues and the dark cues that we get from the sun determine and help to regulate our circadian rhythm. So the circadian rhythm is basically a 24-hour biological clock built into our brain that controls things like neurotransmitters and hormones. It's controlled by the rise and the fall of the sun. And how is this linked to low energy? Basically, as I said, poorly coordinated light and dark exposure. So when you wake up in the morning, you need to get your eyes exposed to bright light. So once we have that bright light in our eyes, it sets a signal in our brain to start regulating the circadian rhythm. As the sun starts to fall, that is also another cue for our bodies to start producing melatonin. And this melatonin is produced in the pineal gland deep, deep in the brain. And so when these are poorly coordinated, we might have trouble sleeping at night. We might start feeling fatigued, what have you. Think about your home, for example. When you wake up in the morning, do you stay inside most of the day? Do you keep your curtains drawn? Is any light coming out? Do you even go outside for that matter? And then think about the nighttime. What's happening at night? I've seen a lot of people keeping lots of bright lights on, especially those LED lights can be very, very bright. They give off a lot of blue light, which we want to, minimize as the night goes on. Do you have your lights on dimmers, or is everything like bright and blasting when, the nighttime should be a time for winding down? So, what happens when this circadian rhythm is not poorly coordinated, and how is this linked to low energy? Well, what it does is it weakens your mitochondria, so they're not going to be as strong and they're not going to be outputting as much ATP or those molecules of energy. We're going to have poor autophagy. Autophagy is the cellular cleanup in our bodies that happens. So this can happen during fasting times, and this also happens tremendously during sleep. So making sure we're in deep sleep, in REM sleep, what the body will do is start cleaning up, dead cells, metabolic byproducts. And once that gets cleaned out, and I will say it gets cleaned out by the system called the glymphatic system, which is the lymphatic system of the brain. So it has, immune cells, it has immune cells in there to help clean out all the cellular debris. So think about when you wake up in the morning, sometimes we might feel very foggy brain. We might have, issues with memory, or we feel a little moody. That could be a contributing factor to poor sleep and poor autophagy and poor clean out during the night. We can also have some disruption of some of our neurotransmitters like serotonin, which helps to maintain energy levels and is considered the happiness hormone. Dopamine is involved in pleasure and motivation. You have GABA, which is involved with cellular relaxation or relaxation through the central nervous system, and orexin, which is involved with metabolism, mood, and sleep. So, some of the simple strategies for healthier and more plentiful mitochondria and good circadian rhythms, as I say, is having bright light every morning. So, as soon as you wake up or within the half hour of waking up, stick your head outside. Open your front door. If you have a balcony, go out and get that sun in your eyes to stimulate that system. Or maybe you'd like to take a walk in the morning, and you get kill two birds with one stone. You get some movement and you get some light in your eyes. And it really doesn't matter if it's sunny outside or if it's cloudy outside. You're still getting that UV light stimulation in the system. Make sure at night, excuse me one second. Make sure at night that you are getting, dim light. So we want to stimulate the brain to produce melatonin, so it creates that sleepiness at night. So keeping the lights low. Even sometimes what I do, or most times what I do, when it's past 9:30, I take my showers in the dark. I might have a night light or have some other distant light just so I can see as I move around the house. But pretty much all the lights in our house are either turned off or on a very dim setting. Electronic devices, again, a lot of us know about this, but we still get into bad habits. Me too. Like I would say this is one of my habits that I'm working on. I work late, long days and late nights, and sometimes I do like to unwind by checking things out, checking messages. But this is one thing that can definitely disrupt some of our circadian rhythms. Looking at our devices, having the TV running, they emit a lot of blue light, and we want to reduce that as we get into the nighttime hours. We also want to make sure that we're managing our stress levels and sleeping in complete darkness. We also want to optimize our feeding windows. So again, this comes into this idea of time restricted eating, where we might be eating within an 8-hour, 9, 10, or even 12-hour eating window, and having the remaining hours as fasting. As we get into longer fasting, and I'm not going to get too much into it, but as long as when you get into longer fasting windows, more than 12, 13, 14 hours, autophagy starts to kick in. And again, we talked about what autophagy does and cleaning out the cellular debris, cleaning out dead cells, and just helping to make our systems run better, to be more efficient, and to be cleaner, in quotations. What do we have here? So walking, movement, physical activity, all these things are very important. If you saw my previous webinar, I talk about my health doctors. And again, all these foundational things are important to do, like getting sunlight, being out in nature, having a good diet, having good social connection. All these things help and are foundational things that we need to keep our system running at an optimal level. Now, there are things that we can do over and above that to be in optimal health, but making sure that we have those basics is very important. And the last thing that I want to talk about is hormesis. This is one of the, most important things in keeping our mitochondria very healthy, is having little bouts of stress. We can't live in a world, and we don't live in a world where we have no stress. We want to be able to be resilient and have the ability to deal with stress as it comes on. So here I'm not talking about chronic stress that we're feeling for weeks and months and years on end. These are the little bouts of stress that we can expose ourselves to. So these bouts of stress can come in the form of thermal stress. So cold exposure, heat exposure, that could be saunas, cool showers at the end of your shower, cold dips that people use for body recovery. Hormesis can come in the form of exercise. So whether it's high intensity exercise or any kind of exercise that stimulates your system. So think about all the things that stimulate our body or put it into slight states of stress. These are the type of things that will help make our body much more resilient. You also have hypoxia training or breath holding. And what that does is it makes the cells more sensitive to oxygen uptake. And when we have more oxygen uptake, we have more oxygen to feed our cells, to metabolize substances in our body more efficiently. And of course, it helps to strengthen mitochondria. So your mitochondria, they don't know about your to-do list. Only thing they know is, do I get enough light? Do I get enough oxygen? Or do I actually get enough breaks during my day? And doing these tiny rituals can give your mitochondria light, oxygen, and a drop in stress chemistry in as little as 5 minutes. So, going through this webinar, think about some of the things that you can do, any little practice that you can do in 2 minutes, 3 or 5 minutes every day. And then, of course, you're going to progressively increase the amount of time you do these rituals to help strengthen your mitochondria and just help create better habits. So let's now go into mental energy. These are the thought loops and focus. Where is my attention going? So some of the common drains that we have with our mental energy is rumination. What kind of things did I say? Did I mess something up? Being in the past, being in future. What if this happens? And just causing yourself extra worry. Another way that we cause mental energy thought loops and focus is with self-attack. We might want to be thinner. Maybe we're not in a position in life where we thought we would be. I want to be a little bit calmer. Maybe I want to have better relationships with my family. Whatever that thing is, and we attack ourselves with it, can damage, how we feel about ourselves and also damage the cellular components such as the mitochondria. All of these thought loops create tension in the body. And when we have this tension, even if we're sitting still, uses up a lot of energy. So some of the simple practices that you can do, I call this one name it and park it. So when you catch a thought or a thought loop, you can say out loud, you know what? I notice I'm telling myself the story that dot, dot, dot. Just know that you're going to park this for now and come back to deal with it. Another thing that you could do is have a worry journal. And again, the idea is to help dump some of these worries and dump some of these things in a place that you can come deal with it later. Because ideally, if there's something that's really pressing or agitating for you, you want to be able to deal with it. So sometimes what I do is I have my regular journal, but I have pages dedicated sometimes when I'm in states of extreme worry or uncertainty. What I'll do is whenever some of those thoughts come in, or I know that I'm ruminating and causing these thought loops, I just write them down just to dump them in a place. And, it's funny when I come back to some of them, I think, why was I worrying about that? Or, because so much time has passed, by the time I look at that list, I think, what the heck, where was I in that time of my life? So sometimes it's good just to dump it, deal with it as you need to, but dumping it can definitely cause a short circuit in those thought loops. Another simple practice that you can use is tapping to reset. So this is also called emotional freedom technique. This is a scientifically proven technique to help reduce anxiety, help reduce stress, and it's a way of neutralizing emotion. You can do the cycle, 5, 7 times. You can do it as many times in the day. But think about, situations in the day where you have high emotion and you want to help neutralize that emotion. What you're going to do is you're going to think of a phrase, and I'm giving two examples here, but you can fill in whatever you need to fill in that applies more directly to you. So the first phrase is, even though I feel overwhelmed, I'm here and doing my best. You can, substitute overwhelm with stress, sad, whatever the emotion is that you're feeling. With all this stress and pressure, I'm allowed to take a moment. So again, you can rejig that phrase however you want to, or even create your own phrase. And so what we're going to do is taking both of your fingers, you're going to tap the top central part of your head, 5 to 7 times or so, while you are saying your chosen phrase, just quietly to yourself or out loud if you're not around many people. So you're going to tap your head and say the phrase. Then you're going to move your fingers and tap above your eyebrows. Then tap the outside edges of your eyes on both sides. Then move and tap your fingers between your nose and your upper lip. Then move those fingers to between the chin and the lower lip. And then move your fingers down to your collarbone. Good. And then let's repeat that again. Top of the head, above the eyebrows, while saying your phrase. And actually, you can do below the eyes, the side of the eyes, excuse me. And you can also do below the eyes. I didn't mention that before. Between the nose and the top lip. Between the chin and the bottom lip. And your collarbone. Perfect. So now that you have an idea of what those are, you can use that as a simple way to help neutralize some emotions. So now let's look at emotional energy and what I am holding. Some of the common drains I find are swallowing anger and just swallowing emotion in general. And you might be thinking to yourself, it's not worth it to get angry. It's not worth it to express. You might be hiding and holding in sadness. Whereas a woman, sometimes we're always wanting to be the strong one and to be that superwoman, and we don't want to show our vulnerabilities. So all these holding of energy can, cause, sadness within our body, can cause illness, and that energy has to go somewhere. It can cause, pains in the body that, don't make sense. So expression, especially, expression from a chakra level is at the throat level. And we want to make sure that we are expressing who we are, expressing our needs, so that we don't hold these emotions and cause illness and dysfunction in our body. Also, with this emotional energy, think about relationships, because that can be a big source of emotional drain. As a massage therapist, I work with a lot of people over the years and in a year and in a day. And so I come across a lot of energies, lots of stories, and lots of emotion from people at times. And so I need to find ways to shield myself from that and not take it on. You're going to find, maybe in your professional life, your work life, in your intimate relationships, in your family relationships, do people try to take energy from you, or do you allow people to take energy from you? They might be baiting you. They might be, you know, you know, causing you a blame or blaming you for things. It could be gaslighting. It could be a whole host of things. But the whole idea is knowing, what's happening, and do not give people your energy or the satisfaction that they can take your power away from you, because that will drain you in the long run. So one thing that you can do here as a practice is a simple practice. You can do it once a day with somebody. You can do it by yourself. You can talk to your animal. You can talk to a stuffed animal. You're going to think of 1 to 2 raw, simple sentences about how you feel. So here are just some examples, but you can pull something that's more commensurate to your life. Today, I feel overwhelmed and a bit scared about the future. I'm resentful and I'm doing so much alone. So, those are 2 examples, but choose a couple examples that you can pull out from your own life. And again, you're not going to fix anything. You're not going to apologize. You're not going to judge yourself. Just use it as an opportunity to express. So, you don't want to hold these in, because you want to start freeing yourself and start empowering who you are. Just name it and then let it be. And again, if something needs dealing with, of course, always deal with it. But in the short term, let it out, express it, and don't let it sit in the body. So now let's move to spiritual energy. And this is all about meaning, connection, and what lights me up. How I define spiritual energy is that sense of meaning, belonging, and connection to something larger than yourself. So it could be God, it could be source, universe, nature, love, what have you. And some of these drains can be living by the calendar. So if we look at our lifestyles, or, as a high performing woman, we might be living by our schedule and living by our calendar, and forgetting that we have these higher parts of us that are guiding and steering us through life. And you never really take the time to do things that light you up and give you meaning and joy. You might be feeling isolated and thinking, what's the point? I'm just doing this all alone. I'm here by myself. There's nothing here with me. I'm here doing this on my own. And you might be someone who could be ignoring your intuition over and over again. So, making sure that you have tiny touches of beauty, of gratitude, awe, and connection, and joy in doing things that you enjoy doing. Finding one thing that you can do because you love doing it will increase the flow in your life, will increase your energy and how you feel about yourself and your perception of life. So do this 1 time a day. You can do it at night. You can do it when you wake up in the morning, and ask yourself, what small thing would make today feel more like me? It could be listening to a song. It could be going for a walk, taking a bath, lighting a candle, dancing, whatever it is that lights you up. Choose that one thing that helps to connect you to yourself once again. And remind yourself that this is for your spirit and not for productivity. So, one last thing I want to touch upon is this idea of the throat, womb, and diaphragm connection. The womb in the body and the woman's body is the center of creativity. And this doesn't matter whether you've had children, whether you've had a hysterectomy, it's that energy center just at the bottom, by that pelvic area, is where that creative energy is. And from an anatomical point of view, the womb, the diaphragm, and the throat are connected by fascia. So, if one area is not working properly, or if we're not using it in the proper way, so like with the diaphragm, for example, if we're under stress or in survival mode all the time, we might not be breathing optimally, so we might be taking very shallow breaths. Taking those shallow breaths doesn't allow the pelvic floor to move. And when I say the womb, I'm talking about the actual physical womb area and the pelvic floor area. It doesn't allow that area to move up and down as optimally as it could. And it also will affect how we express ourselves. So think about being in survival mode all the time, being under stress. Our pelvic floor tends to brace. When that braces, it produces tension along those fascial lines. So the diaphragm is not going to move in a beautiful rhythmical way as it's supposed to, which also puts tension from a fascial point of view into the throat area. And even energetically, when we are feeling that way, we feel like we can't express our who we are, stand in our power. So, as I say, anatomically and energetically, the throat womb are deeply connected. They're very both circular, receptive, creative gateways of the body. So, when we are under stress, the diaphragm tightens, as I said. So, our breathing gets shallow, our throat clenches, we might have a tight jaw, thin voice, or it disappears altogether. We just, are kind of squeaky and not expressing the power that we are. And as a result, the pelvic floor and the womb brace and start to lift. They don't sit in a nice, relaxed, calm way. When you shut down your voice, your womb pelvis often goes into shutdown too. When you can't say what you need, your diaphragm, your throat, and pelvis all tighten to hold it all together. So, what I'd like you to do now is to place one hand on your throat and one hand on your lower belly or womb area. And you're going to gently swallow a few times, let your jaw relax. You're going to sigh a simple or even hmm. That humming, that sensation is a great way to stimulate the vagus nerve, which runs alongside the throat. And that vibratory frequency helps to even keep us more into a rest and digest mode and helps to just calm that vagus nerve. So do that a few times. And you can even whisper and say out loud, my voice and my womb are allowed to soften. When I breathe, my throat, diaphragm, and womb can all let go a little. Every time you soften these things, these three areas together, you take your body out of brace mode and back into flow. So then let's just recap here. So we talked about the physical aspects of energy. We talked about the mitochondria needing light, nature, and movement and rest to function optimally and produce as much energy as possible for us to function in our day. We talked about the mental energy, name it, park it, and tapping to reset. We also looked at the emotions, two honest sentences, and looking at, actual relationships in our life. Are there things that are draining us? Are there ways that we can express ourselves more to prevent that drain and to step more into our power and authenticity? And lastly, we spoke about the spiritual, the one spark of aliveness, finding something that brings us joy each and every day. And you know what? We're not here to fix everything at once. Some people can take a few things and do them and, cause a lot of habit change. And other people might need to start very small. And this is, what I suggest for a lot of people, because a lot of us don't actually act on things that we need to do to cause change and, betterment for our life. Just start with one practice that jumped out at you just now. Spend 5 minutes and shift that one area. That alone will begin to change your whole system when done consistently over time. And again, we talked a little bit about resilience, making sure you're pushing yourself. So if you need to go out for that walk and get the light in your eyes each and every morning, make sure that you're not walking only for 5 minutes every day. You're going to increase that over time. And the next week it goes to 7 minutes, and the following week, 10 minutes. So we always want to progressively stress and challenge the system because this creates a resilience. And this is the hormetic principle that I was talking about earlier. So, what are some of the next steps? So, how do you get in contact with me? Well, I am hosting an online retreat on Sunday, March 22nd. And in fact, this will actually be a pre recorded retreat. I will be doing it after the spring equinox, and it will be available for purchase after that time. I also am having a retreat, a nice big retreat in a beautiful tropical environment of St. Lucia, July 17th to the 24th, 2026. And also, you can contact me via massage therapy sessions. So you can check, this will be posted on YouTube and in some other areas. You can check on YouTube for ways to contact me. All my contact links are listed in the bio, and I will have it in the description for this webinar. So we are going to go to the last segment where we're going to move. We're going to do some energetic movements. We're going to do some energy sealing and protection movements, and then progress into more somatic movements to calm the system. So thank you so much for listening to this part of the seminar and this part of the webinar. And stay tuned. In a few seconds, you will see the movement routines that we're going to follow along to help with your energy, help calm your system, help to protect your energy. So we'll see you shortly. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, let's get started with grounding and energetic mobility. First, we're going to stand with hip width apart. We're going to separate our toes, put about 60% of our weight on our heels. We're going to stabilize the internal body by stabilizing and holding the pelvic floor as if we're holding a poo and a pee, followed by bracing the abdomen and bringing the shoulders back and tightened. Let's do foot rockers. We're going to go up on our toes and back on our heels about 8 to 10 times. This is a great way to mobilize the muscles of the foot, strengthen the lower legs, and to help with grounding and feeling our feet as we touch the ground. Okay, great job. Next, we are going to do squats. So you can bring your arms around as I'm showing in the picture in front of you. And we're going to stand hip width apart, going down into a deep squat as far as you can go comfortably. If you need to use a chair to help you with that, please do so. If you can only get halfway down, that is totally fine too. You can also use your hands on your waist as a way to do the squat. And alternatively, you can take your arms out in front of you with the thumbs pointing towards the ceiling to do your squat. If you need more support, as I said, you can use a chair, you can use a wall to do the squat. As you practice, you'll be able to progressively get a little bit deeper down. You'll have stronger glutes, stronger quads, and just feel more stable in your body. Next, we're doing the leg pendulum. And again, if you need support, please use it in the form of a chair, a wall, or what have you. And you're going to swing your leg back and forth about 10 times. Then switch sides. This is great for balance. It's great for coordination. And you know what? If you're going to wobble or if you feel a little wobbly, that is perfectly fine. Just readjust yourself and start again. If you find doing the leg pendulum a little bit challenging for your balance, you can alternatively take out the swing and just point your toes to the front and to the back. So we'll do this about 10 times each leg. Then switch sides. Perfect. And if you feel like you have a little bit better balance, feel free to swing that leg again. This will also open up the hip joint. Okay, so now let's get into a little bit more of the energetics. This is very simple energetics. We're going to just do some hopping, which is great again for the fascia. It's great for the tendons, to stimulate the tendons. And we're going to shake out some of the energy in our body. Let's start first by moving our arms about 4 times up and backwards to open up the shoulder joint. And then once we've done that a few times, we're going to alternate the arms. So we're going to swing them back and forth and add a bounce in there. Perfect. And if you find that you have some shoulder issues, feel free to modify or take it out altogether or go as far as you can go comfortably. Let's now do side to side arm openings and then swings across the body. Perfect. Let's add some arm circles. We'll do 4 going towards the back and then 4 towards the front. And again, keep note of how your body feels when you do this. Do you have flexibility or do you feel stiff? There's certain movements which are easier or more difficult. And then let's go into the swing back and forth 4 times. So now we're going to do a second position plie. This is a ballet move. And we're going to incorporate the deep plie bend with arm circles. So you're going to do 4 deep bends followed by 4 arm circles. And then let's combine both of them. As you do the deep knee bend, you're going to circle the arms as you raise up. And really embody this movement as a nice, flowy movement. Beautiful. And then let's just do the arms to finish off by themselves. Nice, slow, flowy, rhythmical movement. The next set of movements are called cross-crawl movements, and it's all about connecting and strengthening the connections between the right and left side of the brain. It involves taking your opposite limbs and touching them or moving them in opposite directions. So here we have the hand taps on the top of the knee, and then followed by elbow to the opposite knee. So first do slow motion to get the feeling for the movement, and then you can increase the speed. You can do 4 to 8 times per movement. Then, depending on your balance, you can do the cross crawl by lifting one leg and the opposite arm and touching. You don't have to do this. You can leave it out if you have trouble with balance, or you can use a chair or wall to support you if you want to attempt this movement. Next, we're going to keep the leg on the ground or the foot on the ground and take the opposite arm and the opposite leg, moving it side to side. And now let's do that front and back. Again, take note of how your body feels when you do this. Do you have good movement? Do you feel stiff? Do you feel flexible? How's your balance? Just take note of what your body's communicating to you so you can make necessary changes as needed. And here's the side view. 2 options: touching the foot to the ground or lifting the leg if you have good balance. Perfect. And now we're going to do some energy grounding techniques. This first one, you're going to have one hand on your belly button and you're going to take your other hand and stimulate your collarbone. This one is something that I learned from one of my teachers as a way to balance the energy field and to stabilize the body, feel more grounded to the earth. Then after you stimulate the collarbones, you're going to then stimulate between the lip and the nose, and then between the lower lip and the chin, moving your hand back and forth while you keep your other hand on your belly button. And as another tip, what you can do is you can move your eyes in a figure 8 as you're doing those movements. Those figure 8 movements, again, stimulate the right and left side of the brain. And now we're going to follow this by a sweeping technique. It's a way of clearing the aura or clearing the energy field. And this is particularly helpful for people who are, working with people like the public a lot, or you're in public spaces and you want to protect your energy. And this last one here is for the womb. So we're doing a figure 8 over the lower belly, over the womb, as a way of sealing the energy. Now we're going to seal the energy like a zipper, starting at the belly button, going up to the pineal gland between the eyebrows, and then from the back, as far as you can go, seal it all the way down the midline, all the way down to your belly button and to the top of your pelvis to seal the energy. So here's the tapping demonstration from the presentation. We're going to tap the top of the head, above the eyebrows. Then we're going to tap the side of the eyes. Then we're going to do below the eyes. And then tap with your fingers between the nose and the upper lip. And then between the lower lip and the chin. And on the collarbones. And then we can repeat that. Top of the head, eyebrows, so on and so forth. This can be done several cycles, 5, 7 cycles, until you feel a neutralization of your emotion. Remember to verbalize your sentence while doing the tapping to neutralize the emotion. Perfect. And finish off with the collarbone. So now let's get into nice feminine motion where we're just swaying the hips back and forth, doing figure 8s, swaying back to back. This is a great way to open up the hips, loosen the hip and the pelvis. You can feel free to put your hands on your waist and then do some hip circles in one direction. Then switch sides. Put some beautiful music on, music that moves you so that it allows you to move your body much more freely. So now you can bend the knees and get into much more rhythmical hip movements. Again, you can do figure 8s. You can play around with this and see how your hips feel. See where your hips take you. Sway your arms side to side. As you can see, I need to be a little bit more free in my movements. I haven't done this in such a long time, so this was really good for me to do even. Include your elbows, include your shoulders, roll them side to side, bring them up towards your ear and circle your shoulders back. And once again, bring your shoulders up towards your ears and circle them back. Excellent. And rest. So now let's get into our floor routine where we're going to do cat-cow. We can do this 8 to 10 times, however amount that you feel. It's great for mobilizing the spine of the neck, the mid-back, and the low back. Make sure that you're on all fours and that your arms are stacked underneath the shoulders in a nice straight line. And especially if you're tight in this motion, if you sit a lot, this is a great way to challenge the fascia, which is a connective tissue in our body, to help it get more flexible, create more movement, hydrate the fascia, create electrical impulses in the fascia. And now let's experiment with moving our spine back and forth, bringing it down, twisting it side to side. Really engage in a lot of different movements of the spine in this position. So now we're doing circular movements with the spine. I know this might need some practice for some people, but again, just play around with it. If you can't do it exactly, just move your spine side to side in all the directions that your body will allow you to move. Great, that's it. So now let's do some twisting motions and then threading the needle. So we take our hand to the back of our head, we twist open our arms, and then take the straight arm and slide it underneath the opposite arm. Good, let's try that again. Place your hand behind your head, do a twist with your spine, and then straighten that arm and lace it underneath the opposite arm. You can do that for a few cycles. That's it, let's do it one more time. Twist, and then slide that arm straight, giving a nice twisting motion in the spine. And again, take note of how your spine feels. Is it flexible? Is it stiff? Do you get a lot of cracking? Can you move as far as you thought you could move or not at all? Just, use this as information and communication from your body. And it's a great way to make some changes if need be. So now sitting on your bum, we're just going to twist the legs side to side. They're going to be in a 90-degree position. And do this nice and slowly. These are nice somatic movements to help calm the nervous system, calm the body. I like doing these before bed because they're very rhythmical, they're very gentle, but at the same time it allows us to move our body and mobilize it in the best way possible. Now lying on our back, we're going to do the same thing. Put our knees in about 90 degrees and twist gently from side to side. When you twist your knee to one direction, make sure that your head twists in another direction so we get that nice ringing effect throughout our whole spine. And if you want, you can do it as one continuous motion side to side, or you can stop when you twist to one side and hold for several seconds, and then do the same to the other side, twist and hold. Excellent. So now let's go into, I think this is called sleeping or rocking baby. You're going to hold your feet and just rock your spine side to side in a nice, slow, rhythmical movement. Very good. And just take a moment and rest. And now sit up and give yourself a nice hug. Just show yourself some love. How many times do we really show ourselves some love in a day? Twist side to side. Really communicate to our body that we care for you, we love you, we thank you so much for caring for us and taking us through life in the best way possible. And all that the body wants is to be shown the same love in return. So let's do some 4-7-8 breathing, where we're going to breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 7 counts, and then slowly blow out for 8 counts. Blow it out as if you're blowing through a straw with pursed lips. Let's switch arms, switch sides, and take a deep breath in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then exhale with pursed lips for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great job. Thank you for participating. Look forward to connecting.